Welcome back, guys. So today, got a pretty cool one for you. At least I think it's pretty sweet. So obviously, we're on our Super Nintendo Classic Edition, as you see. And we have all our original games on here, pretty, normal, right? Until we go ahead and get over here, the NES Classic Edition. So I know what you guys could be saying. You might be saying, hey, that's cute. Little custom folder with the NES Classic Edition games in it. And I say, no, sir. That's not what we got right here. This is a dual boot system. Once we go ahead and click this icon, switch to the NES Classic, what do we have here? We have the complete NES Classic Edition system on our Super Nintendo. I think that's pretty cool. I really do. The same interface, the same music, the same games, everything functions the same way. The reason being is because it is the NES Classic Edition running on the Super Nintendo. So I think that's pretty awesome, having the dual boot system. Hey, if you couldn't get the NES Classic, but you got the Super Nintendo Classic, this might appeal to you. Adding this to your system and having both in one. Why not? So instead of just talking about it, let's go ahead and dive up close on how we can go ahead and accomplish this, and you guys can have your own dual boot system. So let's go ahead and begin step by step on what needs to be done. Okay guys, so to start off, we're going to need to navigate to this website, and I will put a link in the description for you guys to easily follow along. So go ahead and scroll down and download this file, the SNES Classic Dual Boot file. Go ahead and click that, take a moment to download, make sure you know where you put it, and then the next step is going to be downloading the firmware for the NES Classic. So it'll lead you to this index. The one I have highlighted is the one that I have downloaded and have used. So, hey, why not use that one? But you can use any of them that were listed on that first page. But this is the one that worked for me, so I decided to make sure to make note of that. Go ahead and get that, and then the next step is going to be to find your SNES Classic Dual Boot folder that you just downloaded and the firmware. So go ahead and open that up, and then you're going to open up dump. In the dump folder, you will put that firmware that we just downloaded in there. So now we are done with that. That's the only item in that folder. And then we're going to go ahead and go back to the beginning of the SNES Dual Boot folder, and we will go ahead and run the application. So go ahead and double click on that. And I'm not fast forwarding here. This does take just a few seconds, not very long. So you'll see all that text scrolling through. And then once it gets to the bottom, it will tell you that it was successful creating the mod. So you go ahead, press any key, hit enter to clear out of that, and you are good to go. So now we do have that mod folder that was just created. And with this, don't mess with anything else, don't really need to. We just need that mod folder. So with the new mod, what we need to do is open up whatever Hakchi version we are using. Needs to be Hakchi 2.2 and above. So this will work with pretty much any of the SNES Classic versions. So we're going to go ahead and go down to user mods in the Hakchi folder. And from there, we are going to go ahead and take that new SNES Classic Dual Boot mod and drop it on in there. Pretty simple stuff. It'll take a second. I'm just copying it back over. I've already done this, so I'll go ahead and replace the files. Takes a quick second to replace them. Once I have that in there, next thing to do is going to be to go ahead and open up Hakchi. So let's go ahead and open up that application now. And once that is open, we are going to go ahead and install that mod. So as you see, I've already used Hakchi before. I had a game I installed and I took it off. But from here, we're going to go to modules, install a mod, and we're going to look for the NES Classic Dual Boot mod. So we're going to go ahead and check that one, click OK. It's going to ask us to go ahead and follow these prompts to power on your Super Nintendo so the system is recognized. Hold reset for, a little while, press power, and give it a moment until your computer recognizes your system. And then once that is done, go ahead and let go of reset and let it do its thing. It'll take a few minutes possibly to load this up, but once it is done, that tells you it is done, you are ready to have your dual boot SNES Classic / NES. Okay guys, so that was a pretty easy modification. If you followed it step by step, you should not have had any issue getting the dual boot going. You know, having the Super Nintendo and the NES Classic set up this way. I think it's pretty cool, but just of note, before you do this, please make sure you have a backup of your kernel. You never know if something will go wrong, and you may need to revert your system back to the original factory settings of the way it was when you first received it. I have not had an issue with this mod or anything with Hakchi, but just in case, make sure you do that. I cannot be held responsible if you brick your system or anything weird happens, but typically if something weird happens, going ahead and flashing the original kernel typically fixes that. So, like I said, that's just a warning. Make sure you back that up. Make sure you have an extra copy, just in case. The other thing I want to say before we end it is make sure on that website that has the SNES Classic dual boot software, make sure you read everything on that page. Don't just follow my tutorial, even though everything I showed you is essentially how it works, 100%. That's the way you do it. But make sure you read everything on that page, including the known issues, because there can be some errors that you come across. And just make sure you are familiar with all that before you install this modification, just so you know what you're getting yourself into. The one thing I do want to note is that using Hakchi and using this mod, if you go to add new games or to change games on your system, you will wipe the dual boot. It'll disappear. They listed that that's an issue that they may take a look at later, but it's not being resolved at the moment. But that can be a little pain in the butt, to be honest. But just keep that in mind. If you do go to add stuff after you do this modification, you will have to install that mod again. So it is what it is. Hopefully that can be fixed in the future, but who knows? Maybe in the future it could be added as an official Hakchi mod. It's not at the moment, but it is pretty sweet. So install it at your own risk and have fun. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and I will catch y'all next time. Boom!